Have you left it too late to make your own door wreath? Have you left it too late to order one from your florist? Because all you've got is this old door wreath, this artificial door wreath that you found in your loft. Well, if you want to go from this to this, come and join me. I'm Julie from Julie Davis Flower Workshops and Flower Start, the online flower arranging classes. So you've got your door wreath out of the loft, and it's anything like mine, it's all a bit flat and crumpled. So what you're going to need to do is to fluff it up, which means straightening each of the little branches, pulling them out and trying to get them to have more of a natural 3D quality. So it just takes a few minutes to go round. You might need to untwist bits, and if you'd had old decorations on here or bits of ribbon, you might even think about taking those off and starting again. But that's if you had time for nothing else, I would advise that you give it a quick fluff. There's nothing worse than a door wreath that is made from artificial materials that just looks as if someone sat on it before you got it to your door. So even that looks better than it did to begin with. There's a nice fluffy side there, and then the crunched end coming around the corner here. Now these door wreaths are made up of fake greenery, but they are on twisty metal stems, and we're going to use those metal stems to make the door wreath look even more fabulous. So I'll just do that last little piece around here, so that just looks, you know, much fuller than it did originally. And then to the side here I've got some greenery that I've cut from my garden. So I've got conifer, which grows in a hedge, and it grows very quickly here, and it's not a particularly nice plant to have in the garden because it just grows too fast and it overshadows the garden. So I'm doing my bit for the world for chopping down my conifer and using it in my Christmas decorations. And actually, as I'm twisting it, it's got a lovely pine scent to it, so it's really lovely to have on your door ring. And also it's got a nice silvery back and a plain green front, so in fact I could put that in what feels like upside down into my door wreath, and it'll give a great contrast to colour. And then I've got ivy, so this is matured, it's got the berries on it, berried ivy. And you might find if you've got this in your garden that the berries might not be so mature as mine. I've got quite black ones, they do start off green. But with anything, particularly if you're going to display your door wreath inside, if you've got an internal door or window, you just need to be careful with anything that's got berries on it if you've got young children in the house, because they do look remarkably like blueberries. And of course, in terms of health and safety, you don't want to be eating anything that plant material. So this is one to keep outdoors or just don't use if you've got small children in the family. And then I've got bay, and bay is quite a fast growing plant as well. It's got a lovely texture. You can hear that sort of crunching around. This is the culinary bay that you'll dry the leaves, and then you can add those to your casseroles over the winter months. So I've got some contrasting foliages, and I've chosen those because they're quite robust, and they're going to withstand being out of water over the Christmas period. And because it's really cold here in the UK at the moment with that winter weather, it's a lovely frosty morning. I know this is going to last really well outside, but if you were watching in sunnier climes, that if your greenery isn't in water, it's not going to last so well, and it is going to dry and then die, which is why it's a really good idea to choose your most robust greenery. Give it a good drink before you start to use it, because it is going to be out of water for the next couple of weeks. So what I'm going to do here is to cut off sections of my conifer. That's quite a long piece there, so I'm going to cut down into it to get two pieces. And with careful cutting, you can't really tell which one was the top and which one was the bottom. So I'll go through and do some of those stems. This has got a twiggy bit here, so I shall cut that out as well. And then onto the ivy, cut that down into the individual sections. Now you see here that sometimes the ivy heads are really quite long and they do nod around a bit. So what I tend to do is cut them off, and then I'll reposition them lower down. It just makes it a more compact little posy, little grouping of flowers, so the ivy heads don't nod around and catch the wind too much. And then with some bay, cut those off into smaller segments. And again from the top, if I'm clever, I can come through and cut those down. So from that one piece of bay, I've got about 5 little sections. So you just use whatever greenery you've got to hand, but if you have got lots of different kinds, 3 different kinds that I've got, what I would then do is to group a bunch in your hand, and I'm going to just take off the bits of green at the bottom stem, so I've got something I can hold without having all the fluffiness of the greenery going right down to the bottom. And then I put that onto my fake ring here, and then with the 2 pieces of stem, I'm going to twist them round, and that will hold that greenery in place, and it just gives more of a textural interest. So you go through bunching little stems together. This is the one where I had the separate ivy head and a bit of the conifer as well, and then come along and put the next bit in. So all the time I'm going in the same direction, so a nice firm twist. So I had the fluffy bits of the green facing this way off to my left, and the stems off to my right, and all the time I would go round the wreath putting everything in the same direction. So you could cut your stems a bit longer if you wanted to, and to make a more dramatic and full wreath, or you could go through, I'm just putting these on the top surface, you could be going through and adding them on the sides as well, but I'm just for speed really, to give you an idea of what I'm doing, is I'm just putting mine across the top. And so I'll stop talking and finish off my drawing. So there you've got the finished door wreath, looking much fuller and much more attractive. So it's just really great if you have got some greenery from the garden, that you could just make a really, really simple look. So there's the finished door wreath with the extra greenery added in, but you may want to add in some decorations. And I've got pine cones here, which I collected in the summer months. It's always a good idea to collect them early if you are out and about on a walk, and you can even collect them closed and they'll open up like sort of slow motion popcorn in your house. So you need to find a way of attaching those onto your door ring, and the easiest way of doing that is to use pipe cleaners. So I would use conventionally my floristry wires, but you may not have those at home. And the way that you attach these pine cones, you give them little legs really so you can attach them to the wreath. I hold the pipe cleaner about 1/3 of the way down, and then start to feed it around those bottom teeth of the pine cone, coming all the way back to the beginning, and then twist it off so you've got a couple of spare legs like that. And depending on how many pine cones you've got and how full you want your door ring to look, you could add in as many or as few as you like. Twist it round. Let's start with 3, and I can always add in more later. So when you're attaching the pine cones, you need to just position them roughly where you want them to go, whether you want to have them done out in thirds, and if you wanted to add in more pine cones, you could use those as sort of the cornerstone and add in more as you go, like that. Or you could group them all together. If you didn't have much time, I would concentrate your area of interest and put the 3 pine cones down quite close together. So fixing those, is to lay the pipe cleaner across another of these, the bits of the branches of the door wreath, and twist again. So it may be you've already caught some greenery in the same twist tie, but you can keep adding materials until there's no more room to be twisted through. So there's a little space there. Twist those in, and you just need to make sure it's secure. If that's on your front door and the door's been open and closed, it's going to get knocked around, so just give it a shake, and as long as it doesn't fall out when you're shaking, you should be okay when you've got it on your front door. And this one here, I can't quite find a tie where I want it to be, so what I'm going to do is twist that pipe cleaner around that larger piece of green here, and that'll hold firm, and then just tuck the pipe cleaner out of the way. So you've made a start there with 3 pine cones at the bottom. So if you've got no time for anything else, just make a cluster at the bottom of the ring, and then you might want to add a bow. So I've showed you how to make this bow in an earlier video, and I've tied it up and tied it with a small piece of ribbon at the back, but again I need to attach that onto my door ring. So I'll take another pipe cleaner, put it straight across the middle and wind it round, and then you can attach that. You might want it down at the bottom with those pine cones, or up across the top. And again, if we kind of sort of concentrate the impact, I'm inclined to bring it right down to the bottom, and I can go lash it right the way round the door ring up to the other side, make sure I've got the right piece, and then I can twist those 2 pieces together, and that will hold nice and securely, and then tuck those ends out of the way so they don't scratch my front door. And there you'd have a really simple door wreath with just a few adjustments from your squashed door wreath that you got up in the loft for 11 months of the year. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and I shall see you another time.